Yes, we went to the moon, and yes, we lied about it. And that's the actual blog that I wrote. It's a very extensive blog. I'm going to share my screen now. Yes, we went to the moon, and yes, we lied about it. So this picture right here, can you see that picture, Brother Rich?
Yes, yes.
That picture's been passed around the internet for about maybe 8 to 10 years now. Just keeps going over and over and over and over. Look, they're on the moon with no helmets on. Look at the rocks. Look what they're doing. This is fake. And it made it a black and white image and everything else. This is a photoshopped image of the Apollo crew standing at Cape Canaveral in Florida. It's fake news. Okay, let me show you the real image. Here's the real image. Okay, behind them, where you can see a little bit cut off, this is the facility at Cape Canaveral. This is the practice area where you go out and you do your practice moonwalks right in back of the facility back here. And this facility is a standard facility. Anybody can go and visit there. And this area where they're standing is still there to this very day. This is the area where they come out and do their training. They were doing their training back here. This is the color image, not a moon. It's not a moon. It was never the moon. This is what the hoaxsters do to you. This is the moon. They cut the building out in the back and they made it look like a moon landscape and turned it black and white so that people can say, oh, this is just, Hollywood. No, here it goes right here. This is the original image. This is the real deal image right here. And, it's really unfortunate. That's just one example. Now, another thing that you're going to hear about space being fake and we can't go into space and all this other kind of stuff is that the Van Allen radiation belt. If you get into the Van Allen radiation belt, we're gonna die. Okay, that's actually fake as well. Okay, now this is an image here of the Van Allen radiation belt, and this is the trajectory, the exact path chosen by the Apollo mission to pass through the belt. Now, initially what happened was Van Allen himself, the scientist, he discovered that these radiation belts were real. They do exist. And this is during the Mercury missions, which we're going to talk about a little bit tonight, because the Mercury missions were all mathematically plotted by the courses and all the different landing zones and all of that were all plotted by black people called hidden figures. They were computers. Before computers existed, black people were the computers at the space agency. The real physical machine computer didn't exist yet. Black people were called computers.
So you're saying black people were called computers before computers even existed? That's
correct.
Correct. We were literally the computers.
We were literally the computer. We were a biological computer. They didn't have a computer. IBM, the first computer didn't even exist. So black people in dozens of them, in the droves, we were inside the space agency and we literally were the calculator. So we, using our own brain power, would calculate all the trajectories, all the launch windows, all the splashdown ratios, orbits of putting satellites into orbit, high orbits, low orbits, how to track a path to a rendezvous with the moon and then get into orbit around that and then make a return splashdown and what the window would be to splash down and the exact location. All those intricate calculus and mathematical computations were all done by black people, human beings, at NASA, called computers, long before computers ever existed. Okay, the whole Mercury mission, which discovered the Van Allen radiation belts, or they were discovered during that time period, was the mission before Apollo, where we were sending satellites up into space using computers of black people, and he discovered it. So he made it known that this was a potential threat and that there were high levels of radiation out there. So scientists got together, astrophysicists got together, military got together, and they all said, okay, what are we going to do about this? The first thing they did was they said, well, let's try to blow up a nuke in the atmosphere and see if we can release the radiation, which they actually tried, believe it or not. They actually did it. It didn't do anything, obviously. It just increased whatever radiation came from the warhead into space. Then with the thankful to the computers, black people, they were able to track a trajectory of satellites to go around the planet and map the radiation belt. So because of us, the radiation belt was mapped properly. And because of that, they noticed that there were pathways, open pathways, because of the Earth's magnetic field that whipped through the radiation belt, would open up these doorways and allow huge, massive swaths of open space that a spaceship can travel through. The next thing we did was calculate with our computers the trajectory to travel on to get into open space, bypassing the need to die in a radiation belt. And knowing now that the only way to die in a radiation belt, this is many years later, you would have to be in a vessel that was unprotected with radiation hardened materials. And you have to be in the radiation belt for 3 months to receive a lethal dose. So even now, it still isn't as bad. It only takes 3 days to pass through the range from the Earth into deep space, headed towards the moon, to get through this belt thing. So, I mean, it only takes a few hours to get through the belts, and then it takes 3 days to get to the moon. So there wasn't enough exposure to even make it worth, an issue. Not to mention that the Russians had already sent up monkeys into space in these rockets, and then let them come back down after getting up there. And there was nothing wrong with them. So they realized that there was nothing that was going to kill them, especially if they took the correct path through the belts. This is another big hoax. You can't travel in space because of radiation belts. No, not true, guys. It's all backed on real science. You can look it up and you can research it. The firmament. I was just getting ready to get to that. That's another big thing. Okay. This is another big problem we have. Fake images. Fake images, not from NASA. NASA has fake images as well because, they obfuscate the information on the images to hide what's out there. But these images that say the Anunnaki had showed a dome and the Navajo tribe showed a dome. And that's all. Those images are literally somebody drew those things with a nice, piece of artwork software, made them, put a little bit of a filter on them and say, these are from the ancients. Let me tell you something. I've read every single ancient text you can just about think of. I'm probably one of to me, in my opinion, I believe I'm in the top 10 ancient texts. Okay. Over 1,000 cylinder scrolls, scriptures, tablets, cuneiform tablets, and also Tibetan, Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Book of Going Forth by Day. All these ancient scriptures and texts, the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian Vedas, the Ning Li, all these things that I've gone through, and not nowhere in any of these is any depiction. And I've gone through thousands and thousands of pages of any kind of a dome structure. The only one that they can try to say is Nut bending over. That's from ancient Egypt, bending over the earth. That is not showing a dome structure. That is the God of the heavens showing the location of the universal of the galaxy. I'm sorry, and the location as well to the planets that some of these beings derive from. And nowhere in that text did it ever say this was a dome structure. It talks about the God. It talks about how this God has the power over the sky and access to these portals and everything else. And nowhere in none of these hieroglyphs does it talk about that this was a dome. Another thing is, if you think that we're living in a dome and that satellites don't exist, I actually had somebody tell me, and unfortunately had a situation with a person in my family that passed away during Hurricane Maria because of the hurricane. And this hurricane was covered by, obviously, satellite technology. And I I showed the video of the satellite technology in one of my posts. And somebody actually told me that this doesn't exist because satellites can't take these pictures and they don't exist. So I guess my relative didn't even die, So it's just, it comes down to fanaticism and understanding. If you don't believe that satellites exist, then what I want you to do is I want you to go to every satellite antenna and cover it up with something, put something directly over it, and watch you don't get a signal. From say, take that satellite and turn it in a different direction, and go to the back of your car and put a piece of lead over that little stubby antenna on the back of your vehicle. You won't be able to get satellite radio anymore. Why is that? Why does that happen? That's why, because guess what, guys? Satellites do exist. Not only do they exist, they've been up there since the 1960s. Satellites have been launched. Russia launched the first satellites in the 1960s. By 1950s. By 1954, we already had the Sputnik up there. By 1960, we had Sputnik 4 already up there. And then after that, we had satellites doing high lunar orbits, low lunar orbits. We had, of course, our equatorial orbits. And we were already theoretically working on doing retrograde and polar orbits as well. This is real science. And you'll never agree with me and you'll never understand this until you actually save your money, get a ticket, and go to a real laboratory where these things are being done and talk to people and find out that, oh, wow, you've been kind of deceived because you've been going off of Google and YouTube. Google and YouTube are very good sources to start your research. There's levels to the game to get your understanding. I can simply measure the circumference of the earth by taking 2 sticks. I can put 1 stick in the ground where I am, and then I can walk a mile down and put a stick in the ground where, a mile away in a straight line. And then I can measure the shadows at a particular time of day or any time of day. As long as I measure the shadow of one and the shadow of the other, by that method alone, I can calculate the circumference of the earth. I don't even need a satellite to do that. Also, I can stand on the shoreline and I can watch a ship sail away from me and watch it sink. And I know if that I go up another 6 feet, I can see another 3 arc miles out. If I go up another 6 feet, I can see another 3 arc miles out. But there's a limit to how high I can go. This is why on the 4th of July, you can't be at the Empire State Building and you can't see fireworks in London. Why? Because of the arc. Then you have the fake image of the Earth showing, that it's flat. This image of the globe, and it's supposed to. That image comes from a tiny little, less than maybe 1 centimeter image of a planet. Now, if I took your elbow and I bend your elbow, and then I take a photo of your elbow with my cell phone, and then I zoom all the way in and take one area with like the size of 2 or 3 skin cells, even though your elbow's bent, it's going to be flat. These are just basic things. Also understanding that physics doesn't create flat stuff. It creates spheres and it creates disks. Those disks have toroidal energy fields that also create a sphere that inhabit it. So it goes back to basic physics and basic understanding. And the problem that we've had on this planet right now, especially with a lot of the youth, is that they've taken what they've heard from online and they've treated it like it was gospel instead of actually going in and researching it, not to detriment them, but a lot of them don't know how to research. That's one of the biggest problems we have, that people don't know how to dig and get real information. And our discernment levels have kind of dropped on this planet to where we sometimes aren't able to really figure out what's good and what's bad. The only way to do that is to be able to be a student of everything. You have to become a student of everything. You can't lock your mind in one way, You got to take in everything. This is why I read every religious book, every religious text. I know all the biblical quotes. I know all this, the Quran. I know all this stuff. Why? Because there's information in all this stuff that's good and some information in all the stuff that's bad. And you have to get to a certain level of discernment to understand what's good and what's bad. And then the next level is, before I end this one, your own experiments. Do experiments at home. Experiments at home that will allow you to figure out how basic physics operate and work, and you will come up with your own conclusion. That's what I like to say to you about that. But yes, space is real and does exist. This is an important one because this is the one that goes viral every few months.
Okay. Space
boots. The guy's got on the space suit with no print. How can he make a print in the sand? It's impossible to make a print on the moon. He's got no boot on. Okay, guys, the infamous boot print from the Apollo mission. Below is an infamous boot print photo that has been passed around the internet like a hot potato. Once again, the hoaxers have taken advantage of people who are too lazy to do any real research. They hedge their bets on laziness of the truth seekers that want to believe everything is conspiracy. Okay, I'm a realist, guys. I've seen this. I've had these in my hand. You see this down here? These little boots down here? These are the slip-on boots. These are the over boots, the overshoes. Below is the full spacesuit with the slip-on Apollo spacesuit overshoe included. The hoaxers always crop out this part, the overshoe part in the lower right corner here. They crop that out. They don't want you to see that. They make sure you never see this because of why? They want the views and the likes, and they want you to share it like it's viral. This is the actual shoe. This is an X-ray of the shoe. It's an extravehicular EV overshoe that was designed to be worn over the Apollo spacesuit boot while an astronaut was walking on the moon. The International Latex Corporation made the boots for astronaut James B. Irwin for training purposes only, this particular one here. The EV boots were worn over the boots that were integrated into the spacesuit, which included the pressure bladder and the thermal coverings. Okay, these are the shoes. These shoes weigh about 8 pounds a piece or some ridiculous weight. You don't just walk around inside of a tiny space capsule with these on. It's not comfortable, number one. They're very clunky and you can damage stuff. You put these on at the last minute when you're getting ready to do an EV or a moonwalk. But that's what these are. These are the actual boots right here. And here's the actual original ones. And they are real. And you can actually go and visit them and you can see that they're real and what they are. These are the overshoes that they never show you with those viral pics of those fake news boot prints. Okay.